I was trying to get into romantic relationships to compensate my personal development as a person,
Mm.
right? So like to me, I didn't know who I was, but I knew that, oh, I can talk suave to the girls real quick. You know what I mean?
I was like, bro, you just opened up a can of worms. Like,
Hey, everybody, this is Ahmed,
and Luffy.
and this is the Brotherly Love Podcast, episode 1 slash kind of a redo.
Take 2.
Yeah, take 2.
Episode 1, take 2.
Episode 1, take 2. That's a better way of introducing it all. So today, we're gonna just be discussing pretty much like why we really even started this podcast and what our intentions really were behind it, because it's kind of weird that an artist and a real estate investor are having a podcast together.
I guess, would you describe yourself as an artist and you would describe me as a real estate investor?
I mean, in terms of occupations, yeah, in a way, I think that's probably the best way of coming it like together, because I don't know, it's just we're on two different spectrums, so sometimes it's kind of weird.
Okay. Why don't you kind of start off and I guess explain to people why you wanted to do a podcast with me? And even before then, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's cool. I think the main reason why we even started a podcast was because pretty much our relationship all the way through from like when I was like 18 until now has been on the premise of love and about relationships and things we've gone through like in our lives. And I think that was kind of our first connection as like friends instead of just brothers, you know? But in terms of introducing myself, my name is Ahmed. I'm a music artist based in Richmond, Virginia. And I make very alternative hip hop music, and I enjoy what I do.
Awesome. I mean, I kind of mimic a lot of that sentiment, right? This podcast was an idea that we came up with at least a couple months ago. We took more actionable steps in the past month.
Yeah, very much.
But it was something that we've had for, we've been kind of talking about, like you said, for a few years. So kind of, I actually love the way you phrased it, how you kind of became more so my friend than just my brother over the past 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that came from our discussions about love, relationships, personal development. And in a weird sort of way, I felt bad for, I know it sounds weird, but I felt bad because of how valuable our conversations were, but yet they were only heard by me and you. And we spoke on a lot of things over the years, and we're going to speak on a lot more as we continue to do this podcast. But this podcast, at least for me, is a natural extension of the conversations that me and you already regularly have. All of these are topics that we already talk about, and they're things that we share in common. You started off by saying, you're an artist and I'm a real estate investor. So it's almost like you paint this picture of us from two different worlds. And I kind of like that because we're two completely different people. But when you speak about these topics that we're talking about, like love and relationships and personal development, that's something that it doesn't matter what your age or creed or race or income or X, Y, and Z is. At the end of the day, love is love. Personal development is personal development. And we're all striving kind of to be better people. So there's certain things that can cut across or cut through a lot of those social constructs and titles that we hold ourselves to, which is why in the beginning I even asked you, why did you define me as an investor and why did you define yourself as an artist? But when we'll get into the whole perception of self versus others' perceptions of self, we have a lot to say. But for me, I'm really excited to do this podcast because, like I said in the beginning, I feel bad a lot of times when I'm having really high level intellectual conversations with people because I know that my audience is limited to one or two. Me and the person I'm speaking to at the most. And I feel like that's almost selfish in a way because I leave those conversations learning and gaining so much knowledge and perspective and insight from other people. It's not often, I think, that people would think that they can gain a lot of insight from talking to their younger brother, quote unquote, about an issue like, or a topic like relationships. But in our specific circumstance, at least for me, it makes 100% sense why I would. Growing up, and I've told you this before, but growing up, I felt jealous of you as my younger brother because I saw you entering into romantic and intimate relationships well before me. That was always a part of my life when I was younger that I felt like I neglected. And I kind of pushed on, to the back burner so that I can focus on other aspects of my life and progress those aspects of my life. So I had a sense of jealousy, for a while. And it wasn't until I went to college and I took Strength Finders 2.0.
2.0.
2.0, not the first one. And, my first 5 skills that popped up on there were, everything I could completely understand. Futuristic, idealistic, visionary, all these forward thinking, visionary type ideals. But my number one skill, according to Strength Finders, was relator, which, I like to develop deep, meaningful relationships with people. And that one was always a struggle for me to grasp with because at the time when I took this assessment, I was like, hey, I've dated a fair number of women, but I haven't built a successful relationship. I've never been in a situation where I felt like I was in a successful relationship. So I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't until I started expanding my definition of a relationship that I actually started to find the ways that I was strong in that category. When I started to understand that, hey, I actually do have a really great relationship with my friends. I actually do have a really great relationship with my parents. I have really good relationships with, as I came to become, with myself and with God, and all those came later. And from those, thankfully, I've been able to improve my romantic or intimate relationships as well. But it wasn't until I kind of took a more holistic perspective. But it all started from the beginning of kind of looking at you as the trailblazer in that category for me, which is not typical. It's atypical for, I'm 4 years older than you,
and the whole Olympics.
Yeah. And that doesn't matter now. And it won't ever matter moving forward. But when you're young and you're in those developmental years, they really do matter because there's a world of a difference between a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. Just through the experiences that they've been through, the things that they've gone through in life. So for me, looking at you, hey, my brother is 13 years old, I'm 17, and this man has a whole girlfriend. And meanwhile, like, I'm 17, I just kissed a girl for the first time.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like, okay, there's certain parts of my life that I was lacking. So, bringing it back to today, I'm so proud, I could say, from the relationship that I've built with you off of what we're doing right now. And it's really exciting, like I said earlier, that we're kind of taking it to the next level. It's not just us having kind of dope ass conversations about love and success and marriage and relationships and friendships and God and all of that. But now we actually get to share that with other people. And that's something I'm really excited about.
That's probably the biggest thing I was trying to overcome as a music artist, right? So as a music artist, there's so much I can only do with my music, with my art, where I share my story with others, where I'm really revealing my soul to others. But sometimes on Instagram or on Twitter, or whatever it is, there's a certain persona that people will put up. And that's not to be like a bad thing. Like, I think that's just actually just natural. that you want to put your best foot forward online. You want to make sure your presence online is good. So although I would be promoting inclusiveness and spirituality and just speaking your truth, and like people would resonate, I felt like I was limited. You know, I was like, I can go on IG Live and I can talk for a bit or whatever it is, but like I'm not having a conversation with someone where I can really just talk how I want to speak, you know? And I think this platform, especially, I'm very glad we just had the idea like 2 or 3 months ago. Like we're just casually talking, like, let's have a podcast. And then we started to implement the steps, like even like last month. Cause I feel like, I'm not saying like, oh, we're special or anything, but I feel like we have such great conversations that go from like, oh, you know, just like the basic surface level to the point where there's like a higher frequency when we talk. Like, you ever notice that, let's say for instance, you're having a conversation with a friend, and at first the conversation is simple, but then you guys are going in. Like you're like nothing else in the world is like does not matter at all, but you're just talking to that one person. You're just focused, right? People around you will be like, yo, what are they talking about? Like, what is it so interesting? Right? Because of that energy you guys are giving off. I remember one time it was at their performance, and I was talking to this guy named Jermaine. Shout out to Jermaine. And him and I just discussed music for hours. And everyone was like passing by looking at us like, yo, who are these guys just talking about music normally, like after the event? Mind you, everyone has left and we're still talking. Right? But I think to go back to your point of how you were like jealous of me, or like, you know what I'm saying, in terms of your romantic life, that was weird because I felt I was trying to get into romantic relationships to compensate my personal development as a person, right? So like, to me, I didn't know who I was, but I knew that, oh, I can talk suave to the girls real quick. You know what I mean?
I was like, bro, you just opened up a can of worms. Like,
Yeah, bro. Like I was straight up just like, you know, just talk to them all the time. And then like after a point in time, you start realizing like, yo, I got so caught up in these other people that I'm left with myself, that I don't know who I am. And I don't know the kind of person I want to be. And that becomes scary. So like easily my first year in college, that was the hardest ever. Like I was so caught up in my own mind that I wasn't able to look people in the eye. That's how bad it got. Like I wasn't able to talk to anyone or really speak how I wanted to speak, because I knew like in my mind I was like, you secretly hate me in a way, right? Because I felt that they could sense my energy, that my energy was off, and so I immediately thought they hated me. So us just doing this podcast of brotherly love, like it's just a dope way of, like you said, extending the conversation of like, let's talk about the realness that happens behind relationships for men and for women too. But like to get a men's perspective of like, hey, this is how you should move. Hey, this is how you should operate during these like conditions. Because sometimes, especially growing up, I don't think I was really like taught by Baba. I was taught by you. You know what I'm saying? Same way with Wad. Like Mama definitely did check, like, you know, she checked me and made sure like I was learning stuff, but Wad was the one who was really implementing this stuff as well. So it was like big brother, big sister in a way.
yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of things we can dive into right now, to be completely honest.
Go ahead, bro.
Shoot, where do I even begin? The idea that you were afraid to even look people in the eyes because you weren't sure of yourself.
Yeah.
I think that that's an issue. Well, not even that issue. Everything that you just said, right? The reason that we're able to have these conversations, the reason, like I said in the beginning, is because we're talking about the truth. And the truth holds true regardless of how you feel about it. It doesn't matter if you're a 21-year-old musical artist or you're a 25-year-old developer and athlete. None of that's really relevant to the fact that we all experience life the same way. Heartbreak feels the same for everyone. Yeah. Success and triumph feel the same way for everyone. The reasons and motivations and intentions behind people's actions is the same. I feel like a lot of times we get caught up in thinking that our life experience is special, in that the things that I'm doing, no one else can possibly understand. No one gets me, and it's almost like that angsty teen phase that people
I
have.
had a big one.
Yeah, but see, the good thing is you had one.
Yeah.
A lot of people still have one.
Even though they're grown up.
They never, that angsty teen never leaves. So they become 25 years old, 30 years old, and they still have this chip on their shoulder. How many people do you know who they're 30 years old, 30-year-old people, and they're like, all men are trash.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Like, you're 30 years old. You went 30 years through life, and your conclusion was that half of the people you met are trash? I'm more inclined to believe that you're trash than half of the people that you've met are trash. Life isn't as complicated as we make it seem a lot of times. In fact, usually the more complex the answer, the question, the simpler the answer. So
yeah, but we make it complex.
Oh yeah, of course. We have to add nuance to everything because our story is special. Let me give you a little bit of context. Let me tell you, but wait, that's not my situation. Yeah, I get it. I don't live other people's experiences, so I don't know how their day-to-day lives are. But I do know that the more and more I learned about myself as a person, the easier and easier it became to understand other people's actions and to empathize with other people.
And to not feel like, how could you? Does that make sense?
Oh, of course. That never even really comes into my, things don't shock me anymore. Like when people do, even, as horrible as it seems, but even something like murder, right? Like it's horrible. And I could never imagine myself doing that to someone. Mm-hmm. But if I put in my mind a certain set of circumstances, I could understand why someone else might have compromised their values enough to commit such an act.
Yeah.
So in that same way, like, that's why it's so easy for me to kind of understand, or almost like kind of understand where other people's faults are, because they were my faults. Like when people have insecurities, it's like, well, yeah, I have insecurities as well. That's why I'm able to relate to you about these and kind of talk about, I'm just being a lot more open and honest with mine than you are with yours. But the human experience is that it's the human experience. So if you're human, you experience it. We shouldn't think that we're so privileged that we live a certain life or lifestyle that no one else can possibly understand or relate to or get or anything like that. There's billions and billions of people alive today, and there were billions of people alive before. The books, the idea of knowledge in and of itself, right? If you think about knowledge as a circle of knowledge, and someone who's getting a PhD, for instance, who they're creating, quote unquote, a little bit of new knowledge, all they do is they edge out the edge of that circle a little bit. So you spent your whole life trying to get a PhD just to slightly increase one area within the circle of human knowledge. But that circle of human knowledge has been there for millennia, as long as humans have existed. It's like, almost the same way that we think back on cavemen and we're like, oh, they were idiots. It's like, no,
they're pretty smart.
Their intellectual capabilities were just about as far as ours, but just within the realm of what they deem possible.
No, yeah. I was gonna say like a few things. You said the human experience, right? A lot of times people want to feel special, and I completely understand that. You should want to feel special, because not even low key, but high key, everyone is special. But you also have to understand that we are just a speck of dust. Like it's like a balance, right? Like literally maybe 2 nights ago, I was sleeping and I couldn't sleep because I was just thinking about death. But not in a weird, like suicidal, not weird, but in a suicidal way. I wasn't thinking in a suicidal way. I was just thinking in a more like, what will happen after I die? You know what I'm saying? Like, what will my soul be? So initially I was scared. I was like, bro, oh my God, like at any instant I could die, my life is gone. I'm just replaying scenarios that could potentially happen. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, don't, because that could become a reality. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. And then I started reciting surahs just like off the tip of my tongue, and it became so fluent. I don't know how, it just easy. But that alone protected me because I knew I was like, it's a balance, bro. And everything in your life, you can be very special in who you are. Let's say, for instance, Dave Chappelle, very special dude. He has impacted the world on a crazy scale, not only because of his comedy, but his philosophy, right? But also at the same time, Dave Chappelle doesn't matter. I don't matter. You don't matter. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand that. We're all in one consciousness, experiencing the same thing, just different paradigms, you know? And then back to the teen angsty kind of thing, right? People can be grown but haven't grown. Does that make sense?
They're physically grown,
Yeah,
but not
like
emotionally or
yeah,
spiritually, perhaps.
yeah,
You've been referencing God, so potentially spiritually, they haven't grown
yeah.
either.
Like I work as a manager at my gym up at GMU, right? And at 6 in the morning, there's usually older people that come in, right? Now, a good maybe 5 or 6 of them, like emotional maturity wise, they're 5-year-olds, yet they're 70 years old. And so every time, like I'll swipe them in, and I just, I deal with it. Like one patron like yelled at me and he was cussing at me. I'm like, I'm sorry. So I'm keeping a calm face. I'm like, I'm not gonna stoop to your level, you know. And I remember just thinking, I was like, how terrible of like a mind do you have where you don't want to look at yourself? Like, what bad have you done that you're not willing to accept? You know what I'm saying? Because most times people that are like that, they have done a lot of bad things that they don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit like my faults or the insecurities or the trauma you might have put on somebody. I'm pretty sure I've probably put a lot of trauma on somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I apologize for it on an honest take, but then I move on because I can't do anything after that. Only thing I can do is just improve. So yeah, it's crazy how emotional maturity isn't deemed by age, but by just like your willingness to look at, like you said, the different parts of life that you can grow in. There's a lot of college students I know that have straight A's, amazing 4.0 students. But in terms of them growing up, it's not there.
I completely agree. That was 3/4 of the people I went to college with.
Yeah.
Beyond brilliant. Beyond brilliant. On top of everything, but their perspective on the world was so limited. There's just a lot of things that they couldn't understand that for me was very simple to understand. It's the same thing when people are like, who would vote for Donald Trump? I'm just like, half of Americans would. Like,
Yeah.
what's so difficult about that to understand? Like, you live in a bubble, and it's not, I'm not just talking about a liberal bubble or a conservative bubble, but even with a lot of the people I went to school with, like, you live in an elitist bubble, like, or you live in, like, everyone around you is incredibly wealthy, or everyone around you is black, so you think that white people will act a certain way, but that's prejudiced in and of itself. Like, why don't you interact with white people so that or there, like, any sort of group dynamic, like whenever there's some group and there's like an in group, and naturally if there's an in group there has to be an out group. There's people who belong to the social circle and there's people who are outside of the social circle, and of course, like, the fringiest people on the group are the ones who determine its boundaries. So those are the most vocal people because they're the ones who say you are or you aren't part of our in group, and they kind of set a lot of the rules. But unfortunately, like, I don't have an issue. It's a natural thing. Like, group dynamics, all of that's completely natural. It's the way that we interact with those groups that sets a lot of things. So a lot of those old people who would come into your gym, for instance, they look at you and they're like, this is a young college-aged person who's a complete idiot. They haven't lived the life this is their mindset, that I haven't lived the life that I lived. I lived a full life, and I know more than them. This is their inherent assumptions because they identified with the group with their age, and they identified you with a grouping of the university that you attended and the students around you. And instead of actually getting to know you as an individual, developing a relationship with you, and so that they could address whatever issue it is that they wanted to address, they resorted to the group dynamics, the group play, like of, oh, you're not, if you were 70 years old and they're 70, they would never come to you and start cussing like that.
No.
It's because of the fact that they just see you as like you're unequal to them.
Yeah.
100%.
A lot of the times at GMU, even some of the staff that I would work with, not all of them, but some of them in the past and stuff, they would deliberately show that they're like, I'm better than you because of my position. Yet you're the one asking me how to run things at the front desk. Right? So it's like, I also understand though, you know what I'm saying? I'm not the type to be like similar to what you're saying. How can anyone vote for Donald Trump? How could you yell at me and curse at me? It's like, well, bro, people have different lives they live. Yeah. They're not you. The internet, especially the internet is just a big bubble, my nigga. Like no one, you're not, oh, I'm this wise person, I have knowledge, listen to me, So to the people, I don't blame them, because I understand, you lived a different life than me, completely different generation and life than me. All I can ever do is just understand you and kind of just move on. Unless if you're willing to talk to me, then that's cool. I want to learn more about you too. And there are those few older people that I love and I adore because they understand me. They're talking to me as a person instead of generalizing me because of my age or the degree I'm trying to get. They're just, just generally asking me questions, and it becomes a great dynamic. But overall, there's a good amount of people that aren't willing to move outside of their box, and that's the main reason why I kind of stopped being friends with a lot of people in college. I only have maybe 5 or 6 friends because they hold me down, but everyone else, I'm like, there's not really a point. You don't understand in a way what I'm trying to portray. But yeah,
for sure. I mean, it could just be a me thing, but I'm friendly with 99% of people that I interact with. I'll be as friendly as possible. When we get down to business, all right, that's when asshole Luffy comes out, and I can be rather strict, when it comes to business. But in normal interactions, 99% of interactions, I'm friendly, but I'm not your friend.
Yeah.
I have very few friends, and that's because I don't use the term lightly. There's a lot of people I'm very friendly with. In fact, every time I come into your city, we'll go out. I'll go grab a drink with you. I'll go and link up with you. We'll chill, catch up, everything. But you're not my friend, and not as out of some sort of disrespect to you. Just like it's not some sort of slight against me that you're not my friend. But I'm not gonna elevate you to the status of my friends, because all of my friends are like my brothers. I treat them in the same way that I treat you. When I have something, I give to them. Just like when they give to me. I can't say the same with it for everyone else. Most people don't operate on that level of, on that plane. They need it to be a lot more transactional in the beginning, so that they can kind of invest into the relationship. Where a lot of my friends, they're looking at this as they're looking at it as a 30-year friendship, 50-year friendship. So there's certain investments that we make now. It could be in terms of time, in terms of money, emotions, right? If I'm going through something and I call my friend, that's why I call my friend, because he can emotionally invest himself into my situation and take out some of that release. He can take on some of the release that I need, in just venting to them. Because they're invested in the relationship.
Yeah.
They're not interested in just me in the moment. And this comes back to a really good conversation that me and you had a while ago about interest versus investment.
We had that conversation?
We had it months ago. I don't blame you for not remembering. It was months ago, and it was actually while we were reading the Quran. I believe it was
I remember.
I think it was in Surah Al-Baqarah. And we were talking about why is commonly people say interest is haram. And I was making the argument that I get what they're saying, but usury is what's haram. Interest is okay. The way it should have been phrased is interest is haram, investment is okay. If you wanted to make that distinction, because most people don't know what usury means.
Yeah, usury is like the
It's just excessive interest.
the dollar. No, the shark loan investors, is that what they're called?
Shark loan?
Yeah, shark loan investors. Yeah,
It's not an investor. You
well, not
drop
investor.
that word.
Yeah,
Drop that word. Yeah.
Just shark loans.
Yeah. So like that's if you get a payday loan, let's be honest, that's usury. You're being charged 100, 200, 1,000% interest. Usury is just really high interest. That's all it is.
Yeah.
To a point that you're not invested in the project. Because if I give you money, for instance, we can use the example of money because I'm a businessman, but then I'll relate it into relationships real quick. Right? So if I give you $1,000,
Okay.
and I tell you, Ahmed, I know you need to borrow some money. Here's $1,000. I don't even care what you're using it for. Give me 5% back a month until you pay it off. Right? It's just $1,000. I'm not super worried about it. I'm interested, right? But I'm not really invested in what you're doing. If you come to me and you're like, Luffy, I have this idea. I want to build a small apartment community. I need to borrow $100,000. Okay, well, now I'm going to sit down with you and we're going to go over your plans, and I'm going to go through all of the architectural drawings, the site plans. I want to see the schematics. I want to know who you're using as the contractor. I want to know what your exit strategy. I'm invested now in the project. And it's not because of the amount of money, but it's about what it is that I'm looking to get out of the project. In the first instance, the only thing I cared about is my return on investment. I care about that in the second situation, but I realize in the second situation that for me to have a successful return on investment, I need to give you something besides just money. I need to actually involve myself in the project, not just be interested in it, but invested in it.
Yeah.
And that, so the thing that people say in business is, if you take out $10,000 loan from the bank and you can't pay, that's your problem. If you take out $10 million from the bank and you can't pay, that's the bank's problem. In the same way, now I'm going to relate it back to relationships, since that's kind of what we taught this topic of the podcast. When you meet, we're men and we're both heterosexual. So if you meet a woman, right, you need to figure out pretty much, is this woman interested in me, or is she invested in what I'm trying to do?
That's deep.
Because thankfully, a lot of women are interested in me.
Alhamdulillah.
Right? Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
And you too.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of women are interested in us. But how many of them are invested in what we're trying to build? How many of them even try to gain the perspective that we have so that they can join our team and become our partners? It's very rare.
Yeah.
And in that same way, I'm friendly with a lot of people because I'm interested in their success, just like they're interested in mine, but there's very few people I'm actually invested in their success. That friend group that I have, I have 5 friends, 6 friends, whatever. I don't want a lot of friends. I don't need a lot of friends. I love the friends I have. More than wanting more friends, I don't want more friends. I want to strengthen my relationship with the friends that I have.
Yeah, that's what I had to learn in college. Like, I know I'm about to finish my 3rd year in college, which is crazy to think about. It's like, oh, I'm going to graduate next year. What am I going to do? But although I already know what I want to do, like, alhamdulillah, I'm not really worried. I already have a plan. Emotionally, college was a roller coaster. Because the first year, you're trying to figure out, like, yo, who are my friends, yo? Like, I don't know who these people are. I have to kind of learn to invest, right? Or at least put some interest in there, right? To be their friend. And then, after like the first year, you kind of solidify your friend group. Like, all right, cool, this is good. And then sophomore year hits, and then there might be moments in college where things get real. Not even necessarily in terms of grades, but just life, right? And you have to ask, like, yo, who can I like tell this to? Who can I like console my issues with, right? And the people you can console your issues with are usually the ones that have the lifelong friendships. Like in college, like I'm not this kind of guy that's like, oh, screw everybody, I'm on my own, dolo, I have no friends, whatever it is, right? People will love to be heartless. But for me, I'm like, yo, I love everybody so much. So like, even if I don't really know you, I'll have a 5 to 10 minute conversation with you. See what's up. Tell me what's going on about your life. Tell me about what you have planned, whatever it is, and I'll have a heart to heart conversation. But in college, which I also like, is that we both know like our friendship is just kind of like, I'll see you when I see you, right? Or like I might every once in a while be like, hey, hope you're doing well, you know? But that's fine on both of our terms because we understand like we have life. We have other friends, like actual friends that we console to. And that's not a bad thing. Some people want to have a million friends and feel so butthurt when they're not considered as a friend. It's like, well, yeah, like you're not as close as you guys thought you were. It might be a strike to the ego a little bit, but you have to also understand, like you said, I much rather have those 5 or 6 friends that I solidify that relationship with than to consider everyone my friend, because not everyone has your best investment at heart instead of interest. Best investment at heart.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, not everyone is, and not everyone should. Everyone has a certain level of emotional capacity that they can invest in different things that they just generally care about. You know, school, life, work, this, all that take a certain percentage of this emotional capacity up, and there's only so much left.
Yeah.
So it's like it throws, you know, when I see someone who's like, "Oh, everyone's my friend." In my mind, that's like huge red flag. It's like, what's wrong with you? Like why are you being like either A, you're being manipulative and like hiding certain aspects of yourself, or it's the same thing as like when you're charming, right? Like the reason I can tell you I can be friendly with 99% of people is because I know how to please people. It's very easy for me to please. I know exactly what this is. Just like you were saying, you know, you were able to fill in maybe 15 minutes ago. You're saying you can fill in the void by being suave with women. You're filling in the void in other parts of your life. Yeah, I mean, of course, I had that phase as well, right?
Oh yeah, I think every guy has at least like once in their life.
Well, how long does that phase last is the question.
It depends on everybody. But
yeah, and sometimes it becomes like the flu. It's like a recurring thing. It's like every couple months you'd be like, yo, I need to get out there and make sure I still got it. Like
low key, I think that's for everybody, like for guys and girls. Like they low key, like let's say for instance, like they're single for a minute, they will get to the point where they're like, yo, do I still got it? You know, do I still got game? And, you know, and they'll go, and that's not I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's like, it's normal to be curious. Do I think it's okay to always have that in your forefront? Like, am I enough? Do I have game? It's like after a certain point, you kind of hit like, regardless of how I physically look, whatever it is, I have game.
You know? I generally agree with you. I generally agree. I want to ask you,
okay,
do you think that holds true in a marriage? Do you think that if I'm married, do you think that I should be getting... Well, I think if you're married, I'm going to answer the question that I was going to ask you.
Okay.
I think if you're married, I think you're still going to get those thoughts. I do think it's natural from time to time. You know, insecurities are natural. You know, like I'm not going to define myself by my insecurity, but everyone has insecurities. They're natural. They pop up from time to time. And like you said, it's coming straight from the ego. It's just like, hey, you know, this is a challenge on your ego. You have, you know, no one's looked at you in a while and you thought that you were hot stuff. So it's like, this is a direct contradiction. So what's up? Like, you know, but it's a matter of if you act on that thought that comes up and how you act on it. So say for instance, that thought happens to my partner, my wife. What I would like is that she would do something just a little bit extra. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe today she just wore a really nice dress or something like that. Or she just did something a little extra. And she's just going to see if I go out of my way to compliment her and like reaffirm like, like, damn, baby,
Yeah,
like
you
you
look
look good.
good.
Like, you know, like, or is it gonna be like she has that need, and so she's like, oh, this nigga's at work. Yeah, I'm gonna go around the corner and, you know, hop on over dude over there. Like,
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know,
So
like,
yeah, if it's like that, you're for the streets. Regardless if you're a girl or guy. Yeah, I generally agree with that too. That was making me think of the Aisha Curry situation. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she went on the Red Table Talk and was just saying like sometimes she feels insecure and she wants to feel validated. And the men's side of the internet thrashed her. It's like how could you? Steph Curry is a millionaire, a baller, and he loves God and you. Why would you need more? You know, da, da, da. And I'm like, I understand where they're coming from, but you also have to understand, regardless of how long you've been married or dating that person, eventually you might be thinking like, yo, am I still like attractive to my man or to my girl? Like, yeah, in a relationship you have love and you love that person, right? But there's love and then there's attraction as well. I can love someone, but I can not be attracted to them. You know what I'm saying? But maybe she was thinking in her head like,
it's like half the girls I dated. It's like, I love you, but you know, yeah,
I'm not really attracted to you anymore.
which isn't out of disrespect. It's just like this
happens.
this is. But to me, that's even more reassuring of the fact that I care about you for the right reasons, because the physical attraction only gets you so far.
Yeah.
You know, the situation with Aisha Curry, I completely agree. I watched that whole segment on Red Table Talk where she said that, and I thought that the way a lot of men or dudes on the internet, whatever, spun it was like completely like
Out of proportion.
yeah, out of proportion.
Yeah.
And just like I could tell, like you either were just saw the headlines and you didn't actually listen to what she said, or you're probably mad insecure, because this is a normal, as we've been saying, it's normal, like human emotion. Like I'm expecting at some point, and not just from the woman's side, from my side too. Like I like it when I'm in a relationship with a girl, or if I'm talking or seeing a girl or whatever, and she does small things that reaffirms the fact that she likes me.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah, like think about, for instance, I'm a really like affectionate person. Like I like physical contact and stuff like that. So if we're sitting down and like she could just, all she has to do is put her hand right on my thigh or on my knee or something like that. Nothing sexual.
Things.
Yeah, nothing sexual at all. But just that simple act, and it makes that small reassurance. So like people can easily go through a relationship for a while if you're not receiving those reassurances and like talking about how you love to be loved. You know, you hit a huge thing, Ahmed, that like, Patrice O'Neal?
Sounds familiar, but fill me in.
He's a comedian. Rest in peace to Patrice. Okay. Patrice had this bit where he would talk about you can't love and like a woman at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to go into it, but
Yeah.
you know, that was his bit, and one of his bits. And it brings up a really good distinction, though, which is that you need to separate your love for someone for you liking them. Because if you're committed to and that's the thing, is that people think you're committed to a person, and like you are committed to a person, but you're more so committed to the relationship than the person. You know, that's kind of what you have to do, because sometimes you're not going to like the person. But if you're committed to the relationship, then you can remind yourself that you still love them and that you can get over what it is that you're not liking them for right now. Yeah. You know, like you piss me off all the time. Not all the time, but
Same to you.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
like,
we both have the same.
I know,
kind of thing.
But it's and the reason being is because we know each other so well that I know what pisses you off. I know exactly what pisses you off, and you know what pisses me off.
That's facts.
But the only way that you can get to that level is by loving each other so much that I opened myself up to you, and you opened yourself up to me enough that you knew what pissed me off and what didn't piss me off.
Yeah,
you know. If we're committed, though, to each other and to, hey, I want Ahmed to be my friend 50 years from now, all right, then, like, there's going to be periods where I don't like you, and that's okay, because I know that I still love you.
Yeah. Okay. I can definitely see the distinction. And that it's crazy because recently, like, in the relationship I'm in right now, we started to do weekly check-ins. And that's something I would never consider to ever do in a relationship.
What do they consist of, these weekly check-ins?
Yeah, so pretty much we were FaceTiming one time, And a lot of times what we do on FaceTime, like we'll talk for like maybe like 10, 15 minutes. And then like, we know we're there. We just don't need to talk all the time, which I love. Cause I'm just like, sometimes I'm just chilling. I don't want to talk. You having, you being there. I love that. I love to have your presence there. So she was scrolling on TikTok and then she sent me a video and she was like, this seems like something that'd be useful for us. And it's just checking in what's something you want to feel acknowledged for in this week? How do you want to feel like, how should I love you better the next week? Things like that, like actual emotional questions that can help strengthen the relationship. Now, mind you, I've only been dating her for maybe like 2 months, right? But in terms of love, it's probably the most serious because, like you said, in a relationship, it's not just I like you, you like me, let's get together, puppy love,
This ain't a
whatever.
Disney movie.
Yeah, like a Disney movie, right? It's not like that. It's like there's gonna be moments where, like you said, I'm gonna be annoyed at you, you're gonna annoy me, right? And we might be like, ugh, you're like under my skin. But putting the effort to understand each other and to love each other better, that is what makes a successful relationship. I love it how this is especially in college. There's like 2 or 3 couples that I know that like everyone in the Black community, everyone's like, oh my God, they're the best couple ever.
Goals.
Yeah, the
Hashtag
couple
goals.
goals, whatever it is, right? But I also know in the back of my mind, I'm like, yo, I remember I talked this in there's a Black collegiate like men roundtable discussion, and I went one time and I mentioned like 2 of the couples, and I was like, yo, like they go through the exact same thing as your relationship. They're no different. It's just that they learned how to love each other better. Maybe they don't like each other, but they learned how to love each other. And to me, I much rather love than like. Yeah, attraction is it's significant in a relationship, but it's not the main thing.
No. Oh,
Yeah,
no. Oh,
not
no.
the main thing.
It's, and even love, right? I mean, I would personally make the argument that, well, I'm not even going to get into that, but I was like, this will go way off the rails if I bring that up. But I completely agree. I think that the most successful relationships I've seen, at least the ones that I would define as successful, have been ones where they've put the love of each other and what they're trying to build, the mission, higher than the kind of the small bullshit that kind of pops up, because you don't know how someone's going to react, like, or even you don't know if your partner is as clean as they say or not. You don't know if when they come home from work after a 12-hour shift, if they, hang up their clothes or they toss them on the floor, or if they do the dishes immediately after, or were they doing that just because you were around, after they cook, and just like you said, when people are dating, they bring their best foot forward. And that's like good and bad advice, because is your best foot forward the foot that you're able to maintain throughout the relationship? It's like, well, maybe then you shouldn't be leading with it. But then at the same time, it's like you do want to set a good impression, and that impression is you. It is some form of you. So maybe you should lead with it, if you're, but it's this battle almost between keeping it real
and wanting to show an impression.
Yeah, wanting to show an impression. And that's why I was getting at the fact that people that are universally liked are manipulative in a certain way. Charismatic people, charisma is a form of manipulation. Now, it's not, we just generally accept it as good. That's the only difference. But I know this because I can be extremely charismatic. You can be extremely charismatic. That's why so many women are attracted to you, because it's easy kind of for you to talk them up and like chat them up, and you know what to say, right?
Yeah.
But you knowing what to say isn't necessarily you being you.
Yeah. It's 2 things. One, in terms of the manipulation thing, I brought this up one time. I was like, I manipulate people all the time, but I'm not a bad person, right? Now, obviously, off bat, everyone's like, what are you talking about? You're a terrible person, right? But let's say, for instance, my social media presence, right? The things I talk about is truth, spirituality, becoming a better person. You know what I'm saying? Things in that kind of nature. To a certain degree, I'm manipulating those people so that when they read my stuff, they want to become better too. Now, is that manipulation bad? No. It would be different if I was smoking weed all the time and being like, F these bitches, I'ma do everything. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of image.
Yeah.
That would definitely manipulate them in a different way, because there's kids from like the Sudanese community that follow me, bro. They watch what I do, right? And I want to set a good example. But if I did that, they would be following that like, oh, that's the proper way of getting it, yada, yada, yada. And that'd be a manipulation form as well. But the best foot forward, I was actually listening to the Roommates podcast. Shout out to the Roommates podcast. I love them.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, they're great. Hafiz was talking about he was dating a girl once and like it was like 3 or 4 months in a relationship. I forgot how long, but pretty much he was like, you used to work out a lot before we started dating. What happened? Right. And he was like, oh, dang, that's crazy. He had to evaluate. He's like, did I work out because I genuinely want a better health for myself? Or was it because I was trying to attract girls? Yeah, and so he had to ask, like, all right, which one was it? And he was like, I was trying to attract girls. So then now he started working out because he was actually caring for his health. So it became like a turning point. So it's very interesting to see when we talk to people. We obviously want to put the best foot forward. But like you said, sometimes you just got to keep it real. I think that's the reason why girls like you and me is because I don't try to push this like, look what I do, this is me, you know, like all the great things, right? Whatever I do, it's already shown. They see it. I don't have to talk about it. I can talk about other things. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna sit here in front and be like, I never like try to impress a girl. But sometimes I'll be, bro.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta hit the slight flex.
Sometimes
you gotta hit the slight flex.
Sometimes, like there's this one time I was in the JC and I saw this fine girl. I know her, and she knows me, and like we're like cool and stuff. So I pulled up on her and her friends, and it's like the beginning of the semester, last semester, like beginning of the school year. And I was like, we're just talking, yada yada. She's like, oh, like, so what you doing, right? And I was like, oh, I'm about to go to my studio, you know what I'm saying, record some music. That was
my drop.
flex.
Just start.
Yeah, and they're like,
I got a studio.
Yeah, and the girls were like, studio. I was like, yeah, you know, I built my own studio in my room. And the girl's like, girl, he fancy. And she was like, stop gassing him up. In my head, I was like, it's already done.
I'm already filled. I'm already feeling it. Gas tank already full. Like
exactly, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get it. Yeah, like I'm 25. I'm a real estate developer, so it's like it's difficult not to talk about my work and not constantly be flexing. Like
low key, you don't realize it.
Low key, like it's hard, you know, and that's why to be honest, like I generally don't talk about my work that much with like, you know, with people or whatever, but because my work isn't the only thing that, you know, I'm not just my work. You know?
I used to, but not so much because I'm not compensating anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and the biggest thing is I never wanted people to look at me as my successes. I wanted people to look at me as me. And so that's why I force, like, people know about the great things I've done or anyone will know about the great things anyone have done, because if it's truly great, then people will talk about it. You don't need to say anything. And like what I found, and what I found out just completely like through life, being completely honest, is like, that's completely true. You know, when I came back here and started working, no one knew what I was doing.
Yeah, I remember.
But once someone found out what I was doing, everyone figured out what I was doing real quick. And that wasn't with me blasting it out on social media. This is before I put anything out on social media. There's a lot of people who, you know, had a pretty good idea. Like, I heard he has these houses, or I heard he's doing well. So I don't need to say anything. Yeah. You know, because my work speaks for itself. So I spend more time trying to make sure that whatever it is that I'm putting out, now that I have some form of platform, some sort of platform, everyone has a platform. It's just how you decide to use it. I decided that I wanted to use it to be more authentic, because I knew that a lot of people would be looking up to me in a certain way. Like, how can I be like this person? And what I wanted them to know more than anything is that you don't want to be me. You want to be a better you. And that that means that you need to accept all of your faults and stop hiding away from them. Stop hiding behind, stop virtue signaling, like in trying to make yourself appear like you're the most perfect and good person who ever exists. Like, no, I do a lot of bad things. Like, I like doing bad things. It's really fun.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree,
You
bro.
know,
Like, it's fun to do them.
it's really fun to do bad things, like, you know, but so I get why people do it, you know, but at the end of the day, it's really important, I think, I always remember back to, and here's the craziest thing. I can't even tell you this girl's name. I don't even know her name. I only went on one date with her.
Oh, I thought because you're like trying to hide her identity.
No, I mean, to be honest, I'll probably almost never drop anyone's name.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. I would be in so much trouble. No.
But there is a girl I went out with. It was probably like 3 years ago.
Okay.
So it was just after I moved back to Richmond, just after I moved back to Richmond. And I went out with this girl and we went on one date, right? And be completely honest with you, super fun date, but I never, you know, we didn't keep on dating. And the thing that always sticks in my mind when I think about her more than anything is how just herself she was. Like, she didn't care if I liked her or not. She was just
there.
She was just there and herself and completely, and it was just, it is what it is sort of thing. And like, that vibe to me was so attractive. Like, I liked her. Attractive. I liked her so much more, bro. And she showed up, I swear to you, first date, right? Like, showed up wearing sweatpants. Like sweatpants and like a sweater or something like that.
Sweatpants, hair
like,
tied.
Yeah, I swear, like, you know, the big oversized gray sweatpants, and like she had on some just random throw-on sweater or something like that. And I was so attracted to her. So attracted, because I was like, this signals to me so much more than, obviously I'm physically attracted to you. I wouldn't have, you know, asked you to go on a date if I didn't find you physically attractive. But that's not important. Like, we got past that. You know, it's like some people focus so much on like physical attraction. I need to find the most beautiful girl, or the most, you know, whatever. I need a guy with six-pack abs.
She needs this. He needs this.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, like that's cool. I completely understand why you want a chick with, you know, a fat ass, and okay,
I get it.
Yeah, I get it. If that's what you know, what you're into, but for me, and like I said, kind of thankfully, like, I've honestly traveled the world. I've seen and interacted with so many people that physical attraction, it catches my eye, and that's about as far as it goes. Like, there's like, you being physically attractive is not enough for me to want to make me want to shoot my shot. Yeah. I don't move off of my course just because it's like, oh, okay, you're hot. Okay, you're cute. Oh, okay. Like,
but
you know,
until something triggers in you.
Yeah. So she was attractive, which is why, you know, I asked her on the date. But when she came to date and I got that signal, that subconscious signal that she's just herself, then she instantly became attractive to me. Like,
Plus
I wasn't just like attracted to her. She was attractive. Like, she wasn't just, sorry, I got it backwards. I didn't just find her attractive. I was attracted to her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good way to kind of like leeway into our final bit. But yeah, like, I think overall, in terms of what you're saying, is kind of like, in order for attraction, like, there's a lot of attractive girls I know, but I'm not attracted to them regardless of their physical appearance. I'm not going to sit here and be like, if they pass by, I'm like, oh, dang, you know, she got a nice body, you know what I'm saying? But I also know, like, all right, you know, moving on, I'm not going to chase her, because like you said, it's important when you're yourself, people notice. And when people notice, people are attracted to you, not necessarily the intimate way, but just they have it's kind of like attract and repel, like magnets. They come to you like as a magnet, because they realize this person is genuinely themselves. They're not going to really hold anything back. I think that's probably the most important piece of information everyone needs in life. But do you have any closing remarks you'd like to say?
Thank you guys for listening. This is, like I said from the beginning, I'm really excited, and this is like not even the tip of the iceberg. Not even.
There's so much more to come.
Yo, man, we're going deep on some topics, guys. Like, trust me. So,
yeah, I think it's gonna be a great experience for not only you and I, but the people at home that are listening. I think that's the biggest thing about it. But thank you guys for listening. This is the Brotherly Love Podcast, episode 1 with Ahmed
and Lofy.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.